Hello, everybody. Welcome to your very favorite Bronze Age comic book podcast, Flea Market Fantasy. I am your co-host, Mike L., and as always, I'm joined by...
Michael Dowell, the LCS Hockey Radio Show.
That's right. And this week, it is your pick, so why don't you tell everybody what we are reviewing?
Well, first, Michael, we have a special guest.
That's right.
This is his third appearance on the show. I believe his first time he was on, he did Doctor Strange.
I think that's actually my fourth.
Fourth? Holy hell.
Yeah, I think you deleted Sandman from your brain.
Yeah.
That's right. I forgot about that.
I counted. Well, it's Bob Myers, everybody, our buddy Pork Carrot. Bob, what's the fourth one? Doctor Strange, Sandman?
Black Panther.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, yes.
With, what was that? King Cadaver.
Yeah, King Cadaver.
I forgot all about that. Yeah, well, this is your fourth time. One away from the smoking jacket.
Ooh, very exciting.
I was getting close. So this time, I gave Bob a list of books I was considering. Mm-hmm. And one seemed to intrigue him the most. And it was the Further Adventures of Indiana Jones, issue 11 from 1983. Now, Bob, what about Indiana Jones caught your eye?
I just love the Indiana Jones movies. And so I didn't realize there was a comic. I wasn't surprised to learn there was, but I'd never seen the comic before. So it's like, well, let's give this a shot. It's either good or it's terrible. So
yeah,
either way, it's going to be fun.
When I was a little kid, I collected this. So the series only ran for 34 issues. It ran from 83 to 86. And I will say I probably had about 20 of them in that area. So, Mike L., you've never read Indiana Jones either, have you?
Actually, I read one issue, and it was one of the ones that adapted the first movie. So I think it was a limited series, right? Yeah. So yes. I think it was like number 2 or 3. Yeah.
The movie came out in June of 81, and in September of 1981, Marvel released a 3-issue limited series, Raiders of the Lost Ark, to adapt the film to the comics. And that 3-issue limited series was written by Walt Simonson, with art by John Buscema and inking by Klaus Janson.
Okay. I've got it somewhere, but yeah.
Yeah. And then the regular series kicked in 83, like I said, for 34 issues. Now, Bob, were you a big fan of Indiana Jones as a kid, eh? You liked them, huh?
I did indeed. I mean, who didn't?
Yeah, it's great.
Right.
And are you still... I think the movies hold up, right? I mean, I haven't seen Raiders in a while, but I see...
Oh, yeah. The first two definitely do, and the third is still pretty good. And then, yeah, that's all 3 of them.
There you go. I got to say...
Bob, no. There's a 4th one, Bob.
Not sure about that.
It was Shia LaBeouf swinging from trees with monkeys.
So many monkeys in that movie.
I love monkeys, yet I still hate that movie. Mike L., did you just recently watch all the films?
Yes, I've seen Raiders in theaters like 3 times in the last 20 years. No, but it's been re-released a couple times that I've seen it anyway. But for some reason, I just didn't go back and rewatch Temple of Doom or Last Crusade for like a long time. And then finally this year, I watched them all on Blu-ray. And I totally agree with Bob. Like, I think the first 2 are just as good as I remember. And the third one, I used to think it was like the best one, but it gets a little bit more boring each time I watch it. You know?
It's pretty hokey at the end.
Oh, yeah, it's hokey for sure.
Actually, the ending, like inside the cave, I love all that stuff. It's the rest of the movie, I just find it's kind of a retreat of the first one, you know?
It has some good scenes in it, though. Like there's some good the tank battle and stuff in the desert or whatever.
Right.
Tank. And,
I still think it's a good movie. It's just not as good as the first 2.
Right.
Yeah, like the first one, you can arguably say the first one is one of the best films ever made. Like if you're making a list of like top 100 films, like
Yeah, you know? I agree with that. And the second one, people used to pick on it, but looking back, the second one is so good.
It's so good.
When it first came out, people seemed like disappointed, but it is awesome. The action scenes are so spectacular in that film.
It's like a roller coaster. Like there's maybe 5 minutes where it gets a little weird with the kids. You know, when he has to go back to get to free the kids. There's like a momentary moment of like narrative incohesion, I guess you could say. But other than that, it is a roller coaster ride of like perfection, I think.
Yeah, and Short Round's tremendous.
Yep. And the girl, I love Willie. She's my favorite indie girl.
Oh, really?
Really?
Yeah, she is. Well,
it's all about Marion Ravenwood. Come on.
Nah, I always liked Willie more. I just think she's funnier, and I think she's kind of hotter too.
Weird, because I think Willie's a terrible character, but I think Kate Capshaw is great playing that character.
Yeah, like she's funny, and like she's kind of. I can understand people think she's annoying, but she's clearly doing it on purpose, and I think it makes it funnier. Like the scenes of them in, when they're about to have sex, and then he goes back to his room, and then when he comes back and like he's putting his hands on the breasts of the statue, and then they're arguing back and forth. I love all that stuff. It's great.
Right. My favorite thing in the Temple of Doom is that scene in the nightclub at the beginning. It's great. With the gong blocking all the gunshots. And that was actually an idea that Lucas had for the first film, but they couldn't fit it in. So they saved it and used it in Temple of Doom. And also, Raiders of the Lost Ark was also supposed to have the coal cart race, on the track. But yeah, they didn't have time to do that, or they couldn't fit it in, so they saved that as well.
Wow.
I guess everyone knows Indiana Jones, but archaeologist has to get the Lost Ark there in the movie. And the first film came out in 1981, like we said. The budget was $20 million. It ended up grossing $389.9 million.
Amazing.
It turned a little bit of a profit. Just a little bit. And at the time, Spielberg wasn't considered like this huge, great director because he did Jaws, but he had a couple failures. Like 1941 had just come out, and it was like a flop. So the studio wasn't too excited about having him direct it. And we should say George Lucas created Indiana Jones. It was his idea. And he wanted a hero from like the old serial films from the 30s and 40s. And he brought the idea. He actually created it in the 70s, but never did anything with it. And then he was talking to Spielberg, and Spielberg said he wanted to direct a James Bond film. And Lucas said, "Hey, I got something better." So he showed it to him, and Spielberg loved it, and they worked together on the character. Do you know the original name of Indiana Jones? Anybody?
I think I do. Or at least I've heard it. It was still Indiana, right? But it was Indiana Scott or something like
Wasn't
that.
Wasn't it Smith?
Indiana Smith. Smith is the original name. And Spielberg hated it because he thought it sounded too much like a Steve McQueen character, Nevada Smith. So they changed it to Indiana Jones. And so Indiana Smith is not good.
No, that's not
as catchy. No.
Yeah, not good at all. So then they brought in who was the screenwriter?
It was Lawrence Kasdan. Lawrence Kasdan.
Okay, yeah, Kasdan. He would only been working on screenplays for a month, and they hired him to do the gig.
Now, was this before Empire Strikes Back or after?
This was before.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so he had just started in the business, and they hired him.
It's amazing.
And Bob, who was the first choice to play Indy in the movie?
I think I heard at one point they were considering Tom Selleck, but I don't know if that's accurate or not. I don't know. That
is correct, Tom Selleck. Okay. Although Jeff Bridges was offered the part, and he turned it down.
Really?
And then Lucas's wife was high on Selleck. She wanted him to hire Selleck. And this was before Magnum P.I. So like Magnum P.I. just filmed like its pilot or whatever, and he was contractually obligated to do Magnum P.I. if CBS picked it up. And when they heard that Lucas wanted Selleck for Raiders of the Lost Ark, CBS said, "Oh, this guy's in demand. We better sign him up." So they locked him up, and he couldn't do the film then. Or otherwise, he would have been Indiana Jones. How about that? And oddly enough, later that year, because this was in like 80, there was a writer's strike in Hollywood, and it shut down production for like 3 or 4 months. So technically, Selleck would have been able to do the film if they would have just waited a little bit. So look how close.
to making one film that no one would remember anymore.
Yeah, because Harrison Ford is just like, synonymous. Like he is.
Indiana Jones. No one can replace him.
I mean, he's great as Han Solo, but I think he's better as Indiana Jones, right?
Yeah, I would say. Yeah,
I agree. Yeah.
And they didn't want to hire him as Indy because he was already established as a Han Solo, and Lucas didn't think he would want to do it because it's a 3-picture deal, and he was reluctant to do 3 Star Wars films. But Harrison Ford liked it. His only demand was that he wanted the option to rewrite his dialogue because he didn't want to sound anything like Han Solo.
Huh.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So
none of that space nonsense.
Yes.
All those references to the Kessel Run, they got rid of all those, right?
That space stuff. Trying to think any other little trivial bits I learned about Indiana Jones, but I don't know. Mike L., any other Indiana Jones? Oh yeah.
Are you gonna the one thing? I found there's a channel, YouTube channel. What's his name? Oliver Harper. He basically just kind of tends to be honest, read from Wikipedia. He's not really, you're not going to get much insight, but once in a while he'll do like DVD commentaries with other people, and they're really good guests. And one of the things they talked about is how, there's always, Hollywood loves remakes, right? But one of the things about remakes is people, they think that they can remake, for example, Indiana Jones because everybody loves the idea of Indiana Jones. And it is a great idea. But what makes, especially the first couple, so good is the filmmaking and like the love of filmmaking, right? Like there was so much innovation in the special effects, and there's so many happy accidents. Like, everyone knows about the famous scene where Harrison Ford was supposed to shoot that scene where he was supposed to have that sword fight with that guy, in Egypt or whatever. And I think he was sick that day. He's like, I don't feel like doing this. So he just came out and pulled out his gun and just shot him. And it's like, that's one of the most famous scenes in the movie, But,
yeah.
if you remade that, what are you going to do? Recreate that scene? Everyone's already seen it. It just doesn't work that way.
And interestingly enough, in the comic book adaptation of the film, that scene is not in it.
Right, because they're working on the script.
And also some other stuff was changed, like, remember, he has that fight with that big bald mechanic in the airplane in the desert, and then the propeller cuts him up.
Right.
They changed that. He doesn't get hit by the propeller. Marion throws a wrench that hits him in the head and knocks him out.
Really?
Yeah, so they changed a bunch of stuff throughout. And they don't even do the scene where he falls underneath the car and like pulls himself up by the,
Oh, that scene is like a masterpiece.
I know, it's like one of the signature scenes, and it's not
right. Apparently, Spielberg actually was not on set to direct those scenes. That was second unit.
Wow.
But it was just, like really, really meticulous storyboarding, though, to get it the way it turned out.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
And we've mentioned before on the show, one of the storyboarders for Raiders of the Lost Ark was, who's our buddy? Steranko. Jim Steranko.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right. Our buddy.
I don't think I knew that.
Yeah, Steranko was the storyboard guy. So that's pretty cool. Bob, any other Indiana Jones memories from your childhood?
I don't think so. I could talk about the movies all day, but I don't think anyone really wants to hear that.
Did you ever have a hat and a whip?
I never had a hat and a whip. It was very disappointing. I've got a hat that's fairly, it's basically a fedora, so yes. There you go. Still no whip.
Getting a late start on things, but hey.
Yeah, no awesome brown leather jacket. So.
Now, Bob, did you watch Young Indiana Jones?
I've seen a couple episodes, but I wouldn't say I watched it.
Mike L., are you familiar with the Young Indiana Jones?
I saw every episode. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's great, right?
Yeah. I was not a huge fan of the two actors that they got to play him.
I can't remember.
Yeah, but the show is good though. Oh,
I haven't seen it since I was young. Like, when did that come out? Like 90 or?
I think early 90s.
Yeah, I loved it back then. So.
Yeah, I think that was my problem. I watched a couple episodes, I don't know, a few years ago. Never saw it as a kid, and so I was like, these guys are not Indiana Jones. And I was out.
Oh, I also got to mention, I kind of didn't know this, but contrary to popular belief, the #1 film worldwide for box office in 1989 was not Batman. It was Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
Yeah, how about that?
Yeah, Batman was only number 1 in the U.S., which really surprised me. But
it shows Batman.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, I guess we can get into the story here. Again, this is the Further Adventures of Indiana Jones, issue 11 from 1983. Mike Gale, why don't you describe the cover for us?
Sure. So this is our favorite Marvel era. We've got the Marvel corner box with the Marvel logo, with a great shot of Indiana Jones in the corner there. I love that.
Yep.
Like this is when I started buying comics. So
who do you think drew that?
I have no idea. Do you know?
No, it's a tough call. Though. I don't see any I don't see anything like real distinctive to give it away, but that's good.
It's probably a photo that they just drew over, right? I'm guessing, but I don't know. I don't really know. And then we've got this cover here by Carrie Gamble, who we're going to talk about later. But basically, there's this big dude standing in the, what is it called? The bell tower of a church?
Yeah, like the bell tower. Yep.
Yeah, and Indiana Jones is hanging off the edge, like about to fall, like 100 feet or whatever. He's hanging on by one hand. And I don't know, it's a really cool shot. Like it's kind of weird because, this is an 80s comic book, so the church is colored dark purple, but that's just to kind of give contrast to the rest of the the town, which is all light colored, right? To show how far away it is from Indy. So yeah, it's a really cool cover.
Yeah, I love this cover. Bob, what do you think?
It's a little known fact that in Spain in this era, all the churches were purple. No, yeah, I really like this cover. It's a great action. It really stands out. Like you said, the foreground really stands out against the background. It's really nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the camera's up above, like the big muscle-bound dude with his arm raised, about to hit Indy. So you're looking down at Indy, and it's so good. And I like the pigeons just chilling.
Mm-hmm.
On the bell tower.
Oh yeah, you noticed those. Yeah.
Yeah, clearly they both came out of this bell tower, but the pigeons are like, we're not moving.
Screw this. Yeah, this is Carrie Gamble. He's the artist on the cover and in the book, and David Michelinie is the author of this.
That's right.
So then we open up. Stan Lee presents the Further Adventures of Indiana Jones, and a great splash page, Mike Gale, of Indy running towards the camera with some like spears being thrown at him.
Right. Schwip, yeah. So he's running in the middle of the action here. We see the title, The Fourth Nail, Chapter 1, Blood and Sand. Basically, so we don't know what's going on, but he's running away. 3 spears are being thrown at him. Then on the second page, we find out there's a bunch of Australian Aborigines who are attacking him. And he's explaining in his thought bubbles that he's... what is he taking here?
It's like a calendar of some sort.
Yeah,
like
it's a stone calendar of some type.
Right. And that's right, because it's revealed on the third page. Yeah, it kind of pops out of the bag. So basically, they're throwing these spears at him. So he shoots back at them with his revolver, and he hits one of them. And then basically he pulls out his whip and he's whipping them. And then one of the guys pulls him down, and it's some classic action. And then basically, then all of a sudden these guys all get shot. They get cut down by these mysterious figures clad in black, right?
Yeah, like there's sand's blowing around, and they get covered up in the sand, and you can't see. And then when the cloud disperses, there's like 4 black robed dudes with swords who cut them all down.
Right, and of course we get some classic Marvel comic book dialogue, what in the blazes is going on? That's how you know it's a Marvel comic from the 80s, right?
Well, these are thought bubbles.
Yeah, thought bubbles. Well, you know what I mean, though. Yeah, but we'll get to the details later, but that's the only thing, that's the biggest thing that makes it not feel like it's Harrison Ford's thoughts, is these comic book cliches, like what the blazes, and things like that. But we'll talk about that later.
Well, let's pause here for a moment, because, Bob, I want to point out that, we see Indy getting hunted down by these Aboriginal Indians, and then they all get slaughtered. Remember here, Indiana Jones is basically a thief.
Oh yeah, total grave robber, and just that's all he does.
Yes, he's a crook. The Aborigines are trying to get their property back, and they all end up dead.
I
because
know.
of Indiana Jones.
Yeah. That's what I mean. He's shooting them with a gun. It's kind of hard to take his side in this, but
yes, he's a terrible person.
But he's just so charming.
Yeah.
Well, man, I just love the art in this. Holy hell! We'll talk about it more later, but it's so good. I don't know. All right, we'll break it down later. But all right, Michael. So, the black robe dudes with the swords, they call in a jeep, and they get Indiana in the jeep, and they drive into a secret headquarters in a mountain, a hole in a mountain.
Yeah, and Indy kind of recognizes them as being Arab, but he's like, well, what are they doing here in the middle of, Australia, So they lead Indy into this cave in like the middle of nowhere, and basically they bring them to their master, who's got this underground sort of headquarters with all this, all these artifacts, all these statues and a grand piano and stuff like that. And basically he's another collector, we'll say, right?
Yeah, it's like a penthouse apartment inside a mountain.
Right. And then basically he.
Michael, notice the guy's got a fez hat, and he's also smoking a cigarette with the cigarette holder. As we've established in the past, if anyone uses a cigarette holder, they're evil.
Yes, true.
Every villain always uses the cigarette holder.
Right. Yeah, so this is almost this is a classic, almost James Bondian thing where this bad guy invites him in, and he's got this little mission for him. He wants him to steal the fourth nail, which is part of I'm not sure if this is true, but this is a gypsy myth about the fourth nail that was going to be used to puncture Christ's heart when he was crucified. But then a gypsy came out of nowhere. And what did he do?
Just swipe the nail.
Swipe the nail. And so now,
he Indiana Jones'd it, as we say.
Yeah. So then I guess now gypsies have believed that God forgives their petty crimes as a reward for helping his son. And so he wants Indiana Jones to steal this fourth nail. And he's like, nah, I don't want to do that. And he's like, oh yeah? And then he's like, yeah. And he pulls a gun on him. He's like, okay, fine. And then he sends him on his way, but he's got his guys following them, right? He's got
like the evil dude. He like laughs at Indy because Indy says, I got 6 reasons why I don't want to do it. And he pulls out the gun, but he sticks the gun through the hole in the stone calendar. Real cool.
Yeah, I wanted to point that out because that's such an Indiana Jones thing to do. It's such a perfect little detail.
Yep.
I didn't even notice that. Wow, that's really cool. Yeah.
Yeah. And also what I want to point, well, let me finish this point first, but the evil guy's like laughing. He's like, that's hilarious. But all right, you scamp, you get out of here. We're good. Don't worry about it. So Indy leaves, but yeah, he has his men tail him to follow him because he knows Indy's going to go get that now that he's heard about it.
Right.
But I want to point out something about the art here. We're like, I don't know, 9 pages in. And if you look, the same camera angle, the same perspective is never used 2 panels in a row. And here at the bottom of page 9, we get 3 at the bottom there. We get 1 big panel on the left, and then we get 3 equally sized vertical panels on the right. And we're getting like the same camera angle, same perspective, but the first shot of the evil guy, he's a little smaller. Then the next shot of Indy, he's a little bigger. And then Indy fills up the entire panel on the third panel to give it like progression and a sense of action. This stuff Gammill's doing here is so good. It's so good.
I agree. And that's why, because I'm part of another book club where we review a lot of like modern comics and graphic novels. And this idea is lost on people. When I criticize modern art, because a lot of times what they'll do now is they'll draw one panel. Like if they want to have a conversation between 2 people, they'll draw 2 panels and then just Photoshop them and just duplicate them. Like talking head. And that's no way to tell a story. Even if you just have people talking, like you can see here how much drama you can create, right? Like walking past all of his statues. So you establish all like his character. You see what he collects. You see the size of the room, right? You change even just for visual variety. You put the camera at the bottom. You have a wide shot. Then you have a close up of his face, and then, like you said, then you use the distance of the camera to build suspense with him pulling the gun. Like why would you want to look at a comic book where it just looks like photocopied, pictures of people's faces. I don't know. I just don't get it.
I mean, those are.
Sorry, go ahead, Bob. Go ahead, Bob.
Those are all good points, of art and storytelling. But let me ask you this: are these guys who are copying and photoshopping, are they hitting their deadlines?
Yes.
You know what? They probably are, but so did Carrie Gamble, right?
Well, here's the thing, though. Carrie Gamble hit this deadline, but the next issue, he only did the first 10 pages. They had someone else finish it because I guess he couldn't finish it.
Because he put in so much detail. But he did do, I checked, he did do like 30-ish issues, I think, out of 34, didn't he?
No.
Or 25 or something?
No.
Come on.
We'll talk about it later. He only did 4.
Oh, wow.
I'm thinking of David Michelinie. David Michelinie did a lot of them.
David Michelinie wrote a lot of them.
Okay.
They had so many artists rotating in and out. We'll get into it in a bit. But if you go back to page 7 when they first enter like his penthouse in the mountain, like just look at how Gamble draws Indy standing there. He's like hunched over and crouched and like almost like he's ready for action. But that's almost the position you'd see Spider-Man in, like the way he's standing. But it just adds so much more like like a sense of action or just sense of drama.
Also, he's in awe kind of what he sees a little bit, right? Not just like, standing upright.
Like a lot of people would just have him standing there, but he has him crouched in like a unique position. And man, everything is so good in this. All right. Anyway, all right, back to the story. So we get to Indy going to the airport because he's got his stone calendar. He's supposed to fly back to the U.S., give it to the museum because he works for his buddy Marcus in the museum.
Yeah.
And the same Marcus that's in the films. And he gets on the airplane, but when he's on the airplane, Mike, he starts thinking about that fourth nail.
See, again, great storytelling. He's thinking about it in his head. He's like, that fourth nail business is nothing but a bunch of malarkey, hokum, a fairy tale. Silent panel of the plane flying away, then a shot of him standing in the airport on the runway. Then again, isn't that great storytelling? We don't even need to explain it. It's beautiful. We didn't know exactly what happened. He changed his mind. It's great.
And it's also a great characterization for Indiana Jones. Action his character. And you see him actually get off an airplane, even though he's supposed to go home. He doesn't do what he's supposed to do because he wants to chase glory of finding that fourth nail.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, really good stuff.
This is great. Yeah. Anyway, and this is so cool because, if you've only seen the movies, you only saw, well, up until the fourth one, but you only saw Karen Allen or Marion in one adventure. But now we see Marion, we see Marcus Brody. Like, I don't think there were any books at the time, were there? If there were, I didn't read them. But it's just,
I don't think. Yeah, not at this time, I don't think.
Right. And also Temple of Doom was a prequel, right? So this is all completely blazing new ground. Like, I love this. Like, just seeing them hanging out, they're kind of referring to things that have been going on that I haven't read about. So it just makes me want to read all these other adventures, But so yeah, like they talk a little bit and they get notification that Indy's going to Barcelona. So then we cut back to Barcelona and
well, Marcus wants to give Marion a job.
Oh, right.
And basically she'll be working with Indy. She doesn't want to take it until he says that he lets it slip because, well, yeah, Indy would be really unhappy about it. And she goes, oh, no, now that you mention it, maybe I will take it. You know what I mean? Like, if it's going to piss him off, maybe I will do it. There's one line in here that annoyed me, though. When Marcus is talking to Marion, he's like, along with the archaeological experience you got under your late father, Abner Ravenwood, I think he'd be perfect for the job I'm offering. Hey, Marcus, she knows her dad's name.
Yes.
That's Michelinie overreaching. Yeah, dialogue is between characters, not characters and the reader. Leave the reader out of it. She knows her dad's name. Anyway. But yeah, so she's thinking about taking the job to work with Indy just to piss off Indy. And yeah, Indy does send him a letter because Indy shipped back the stone calendar to him. But he put in a letter saying he went to Barcelona. So now we cut to Barcelona.
That's right. So yeah, Indy's now walking through the streets of Barcelona, and he runs across a guy who must be a supporting character in the comic, right? And he's
just in these issues.
Oh, okay. I thought maybe he'd been in an old story, but anyway. So
he may have been, maybe, I don't know, but he's not like a regular guy.
Okay. So he's kind of whatever this trick is called. You guess.
It's like 3-card Monty with a ball and cups.
Right. But they figure out that he's scamming them because he's got whatever this is, like a marble, and it falls out of his sleeve. So they realize that he was scamming them. So he takes off, and then he running through the streets, and then he bumps into Indy, who he knows. So
Indy went to Barcelona looking for this guy.
Right.
He's a gypsy, and he would have info on the fourth nail if it exists, so.
Right. So he just happens to run into him.
Yeah.
And of course, the first thing he does is he picks his pocket. But Indy knows, so he gives it back. And then right away, there's some goons after them. So they take off, and they run into this cathedral. And again, it's awesome art, showing everything. And they run into the cathedral, and there's some fisticuffs, which I'm sure you like.
I loved it. And I also like this point because on page 14, 14, the last panel, a guy hits him with bolos again, the little balls with the rope that tie up. And he got hit with them in the first fight with the Aborigines. And he makes reference to, he's getting sick of them. So, at least they acknowledge it. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then he uses them to beat up the dudes. He, starts spinning them at him. So.
Right.
Good stuff.
Yeah, this is good stuff. Yep, absolutely. So then things are going good until this big guy shows up, who tosses Indy against this big pillar, and then kicks the pillar, and then Indy hits him over the head, and then Indy runs away, and he's climbing up this ladder, which brings us to the the scene on the cover of the book, where they're fighting in this bell tower, and Indy grabs onto the bell and kicks him, and then the guy he's chasing him to the outside of the thing, and then Indy uses his whip to kind of swing down, and let me see here what happens here. Oh yeah, it gets caught.
It breaks.
Oh, that's right, it breaks, but then it gets caught in the bricks. So then he's hanging there, and then he pulls himself back up. But then the guy.
Let's check with Bob here. Bob, how do you feel about this escape here with the whip?
I mostly enjoyed it, except there's one little, I guess, blurb, I don't know what you call it when it's in the boxes, which she said, which after several curses and 4 futile tries. So he tried 4 times to whip something before he caught in the fall from this bell tower.
Yeah, he's not even because he's holding his whip from the wrong side. He's trying to catch the handle of the whip in a brick.
Yeah. 2 bricks.
Because the tip of the whip is still caught up around the gargoyle thing he lashed onto that broke off. So, yeah, I don't like this at all. But
I like the idea, but I think they went a little bit too ridiculous with it.
Yes. Yeah. There's no way this happens. But so he climbs up, and he's a couple floors down now on the cathedral, but he's still on a roof of one of the levels of the cathedral. And then that big guy comes busting through the door. He found him already. And Indy decides, I'm going to pretend that my whip is stuck in this brick to lure the guy closer to me, because he somehow knows that what happens next, Bob.
Well, he it's not that he somehow knows. It was mentioned when they walked in.
Oh, they did mention it? All right.
Yeah, that they were repairing the ceiling in this room that he walked in. He's like, oh, wait, I'm in front of the cathedral. This is where they're repairing the ceiling. So yeah, it was set up and paid off. Okay. But then yes, the big guy falls through the floor because he's so big.
Yeah.
Yeah, that hole's a little bit almost cartoonish.
Yeah. It's a bit much, but they did set it up.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, I didn't even remember them setting it up. But yeah. I like the big guy. But it's almost fitting of Indiana Jones, because we saw him running away from the big guy once already, which is something you wouldn't see a hero do a lot, running up the ladder to get to the bell tower. But usually, lucky things kind of happen to get him out of the stuff, like the propeller hitting the guy in Raiders,
Right.
And just shooting the swords guy. So it's usually a shortcut to get away with things. So it kind of fits his character.
Well, the thing is, I mean, ideally, in a perfect comic, we would cut to a shot of maybe the floor showing it rotted or something. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I wish that he didn't have to explain it through his memory, or, and hope that dinosaur's path takes him right over the part of the roof that's rotted out. But, what can you do?
Yeah.
It's still good. It's still fun.
We should also mention the big complaint about Raiders of the Lost Ark, as far as Indy getting away with things, is usually you want to have your hero do something heroic to win the day. Yeah. And in Raiders of the Lost Ark, he does absolutely nothing.
Well, yeah, it's been said that he does nothing to affect, the actual plot. I don't know if that's true or not, but
well, it is true. Like
it is, but it isn't.
He does affect the plot in the fact that he helps the Nazis get the Ark. Without him, they never get the Ark.
Yeah.
But also without him, the Ark is still sitting on that. Well, assuming they find it eventually, the Ark would still be sitting on that island where all of the Nazis died. So someone else would have found it and maybe weaponized it. Maybe.
But or they never would have been on that island with the Ark if not for him showing them where to get it in Cairo. To dig.
I mean, it could be argued that they would have dug into their place eventually, but you never know.
Eventually, maybe.
But yeah, I think you're right because they probably wouldn't have found it if it wasn't for him. So yeah, you're right. Indy's the worst.
He's a grave robbing thief who does nothing heroic ever. So anyway, the big guy falls through the ground and he KOs himself. So Indy and his gypsy buddy, his name's Torino, by the way. Torino.
Okay, yeah.
And he's basically just like a human version of Speedy Gonzalez.
Yeah. Yeah.
He has like the same hat.
Right, that's totally right.
So they still have to get away from the police because the cops are still chasing them from the fight. And so they're slinking around.
I just noticed something that I would really love. So they're talking about how his cousin is a blacksmith. And there's this shot where they're looking at the blacksmith shop. And over the arch, it says L Blacksmith.
Is that the Spanish word for blacksmith?
Of course.
I didn't even notice that.
I didn't either until right now.
L Blacksmith.
I'm actually looking it up. It's Herrera or Herrero. But anyway, I'm probably pronouncing it wrong.
But yeah, so this blacksmith's like his cousin's nephew's roommate or something. So they get in there, and there's a trap door, and they climb down into the sewers beneath the city.
Yeah,
walking through the sewers.
Love it. And then we get the classic Indiana Jones torch, right?
Yeah, I was thinking of that when I read this. Like, he's like just synonymous with torches.
Yeah, there's no explanation at all of where this torch came from.
Yeah.
How he has it. Because he doesn't have it when it's climbing down the ladder, so he didn't get it from the blacksmith. It was just in the sewers.
Always has an extra torch on hand. Well, he has that little satchel around he always wears. So
that's true, yeah. Okay. I'll buy it.
So Torino's climbing up the ladder to go up to the top there, and someone just snatches him.
Yep.
He gets grabbed, and Indy doesn't see it, so he thinks Torino just left because he asked him about the fourth nail, but Torino wasn't really talking about it too much, so he thinks, oh no, he's a rat. This Torino, he's gonna backstab me. But so he climbs up, and where is he, Michael, when he makes it to the surface?
He is actually, that's a good question. Where is he?
He's in like a bullfighting ring.
Oh, right. So then,
like the underground section of it, or not out in the the plaza, but or whatever they call it, the arena.
Sort of in the, I don't know what you call it for bulls, but like stables, basically.
Yeah, their locker room for the bulls.
And then and then he sees he's down at the end of this little hallway. He sees a poster, and it says, well, I mean, I can't read Spanish, but it is a bullfighting poster. So he's like,
if you look closely, it says El Bullfighto.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So then he's like, all I have to do is mingle with the spectators when they leave after the next fight, and the police will never even notice. I'm as good as A. Better make that as good as dead. And then the last page is this giant splash page of a bull running towards Indiana Jones. And it says,
how great that picture is.
Oh, it's great. It says
so
next, the exciting conclusion to the fourth nail.
Yeah, because the shot is like we're behind Indy, but we're like looking up worm's eye view. Right. The bull's charging from the left. And we're actually, the camera's so low, you're seeing the heel of Indy's left foot as it's raised off the ground.
Right.
The perspective on this is so awesome. And look at the detail in the clothing, like the folds of the pants.
Looks dirty in the pants.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah, it's so good.
Good Lord. So, oh, look at the letters page. Readers of the Lost Ark. That's pretty awesome.
That's smart.
Readers of the Lost Ark. Oh, and then we also get a ad for Alpha Flight on sale now. How about that? All right. Yeah, like they have a checklist. Remember when they used to do this? They have the checklist of the issues coming out that month.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
So let's look at some of the issues. Return of the Jedi 2, The Falcon, limited series, The Falcon.
Yep. You get an idea.
Do you know who drew that? The Falcon at #1?
Paul Smith.
That's right. I didn't even know it existed, but I just looked it up recently. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dazzler 29. Micronauts. Crystar. What's Crystar, Micah? I don't even know what that is.
Oh, I have every issue. It is
of course series, you do.
Yeah, it is a series created specifically so they could spin off a toy line and make, because people think it was a toy line adapted into a comic, but it's the opposite. So yeah, they basically created this toy line of characters that all look like they're made out of crystal. And some of the covers are by Michael Golden, and they're awesome.
Look at Marvel Team Up 135, Spider-Man and Kitty Pryde. That's an unusual. Oh.
Read that one.
You read that one.
Yep.
Crawl, Star Wars, Alpha Flight.
Oh, yeah. I've got the Blu-ray for Crawl. And then, wait, you missed Marvel Tales. Remember Marvel Tales? Featuring Spider-Ham.
Oh, I like Spider-Ham, yeah.
Yeah, Spider-Ham's great.
So, yeah, just the throwback to 1983. All right, so there it is, Further Adventures of Indiana Jones, issue 11. We mentioned David Michelinie was the author here. He wrote issues 4 through 18, issues 20, 21, 22, and then issues 26 and 27. So, I don't know, what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like 20, about 20 issues. So, there you go.
Well, I love me some Dave Michelinie, you know that.
Yeah, what'd you think here about? I thought I liked the way Indy talked. I thought it gave him a clear voice. You can debate whether it sounded like Harrison Ford or not. I don't know, but he definitely sounded unique to him in this book compared to everyone else. I like the big picture story. I like all the action. Indy, he had those moments of characterization that were great. There were just a couple little lines here or there that were clunky, like, mentioning Marion's dad's name, and
right.
When he first sees the guys in the black robes slaughter the Aborigines, like his one thought bubble is like, guys in black robes with swords. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we don't need. I mean, we can see that. I don't know if we need to hear that. I wasn't a big fan of the whip escape, the way they did that, falling out of the bell tower, but it's still really good writing, I think. So.
I totally agree. Like, obviously, I can compare this to the Star Wars comic, right? Because it was out around the same time. It was also a spinoff of a movie. And I think this does a better job of recreating the vibe of an Indiana Jones movie than the Star Wars comic did of recreating the vibe of a Star Wars movie, Like,
I agree.
Yeah, like reading this, like you said, it's not perfect, but it brings back that feeling of Indiana Jones, and it makes me want to read the rest of them for sure. So, yeah, I really liked it.
The one advantage that Star Wars issue had that we did, space hookers.
That's true.
Bob, how did you feel about the writing here?
Yeah, I mostly agree. It was very good with some, clunky parts. What's interesting about it, and it's more a comment on the art, but I think it fits, is because I assume they couldn't get the rights to actually draw Harrison Ford. So it's a guy who's definitely Indiana Jones, but the face looks a little off, and the same with Marion and Marcus. And so it feels like it's Indiana Jones, but not Harrison Ford Indiana Jones, which seems wrong, but still kind of fits, because it feels like Indiana Jones, but it doesn't. It's like an alternate universe Indiana Jones, where it's almost there, but not quite.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. And that's not just Carrie Gamble. Like, every artist in this series, they don't draw Harrison Ford. They draw an Indiana Jones guy.
Yeah. Which makes sense. I assume that probably was licensing issues and stuff there. But mostly I really liked it.
I thought the Marion looked very much like Karen Allen.
It was definitely better than Harrison Ford. Like, you could, if somebody showed me a picture of it with no dialogue and asked me who this was, I probably would say Karen Allen, actually, now that I'm looking at it again.
So maybe it's just Harrison Ford being like a dick. And you can't draw me.
That sounds right. But Marcus doesn't look anything like Marcus.
No. So. I also got to point out that I went back and read #1 of this series just because I wanted to.
Yeah.
Did you read it?
I flipped through it, and we should mention issue 1 was written, and the layouts were done by John Byrne.
Right.
And then the finished art was Terry Austin, his normal inking buddy. And I got to tell you, Michael, that art was terrible.
Yeah, it was terrible. And apparently, John Byrne was fired from this book because Lucasfilm did not like his art, and I can see why.
It was really lazy.
Yeah, and you want to talk about this not looking like Harrison Ford, that number 1 issue. I'm like, who the hell is this nerdy looking guy with these round glasses? Apparently it's Indiana Jones. Doesn't look anything like him.
I'm looking at it now, and oh my god, this art is dreadful.
Right.
Yeah, compare that art to Carrie Gamble. It's like, oh my gosh. Like,
exactly.
And those first 2 issues, they did the first 2 issues, and like each panel was like the same perspective, same camera angle, same, and it's not even like you wouldn't recognize it necessarily as John Byrne. Like, it really comes across as more Terry Austin. Like, he did the finishing. It really looks like Terry Austin kind of art more than John Byrne, you know. But So we were talking about Carrie Gamble. He did issues 7, 8, and 11. And then he did the first 10 pages of issue 12. And, the art here is spectacular. So, but Michael, they jumped around with artists a lot. And some of the names who drew this book included, we mentioned Byrne and Austin, Howard Chaykin, Ron Franz, Herb Trimp did 6 issues, David Mazzucchelli did 1 issue, and Steve Ditko did 8.
Yeah, I saw that. That's pretty cool.
Towards the end of the run. And so I think, as excited as we are to go back and read this, I would recommend not. Yeah, because the art is not good. Like,
that's really unfortunate, because I was planning to actually go back and read a lot of these.
Maybe read issues 7 and 8. The other ones Gammill did. But yeah, overall the art here is not great. Mm-hmm. So I think enjoyment will vary depending on who's drawing it. There's a couple other dudes who I never heard of also are in here drawing. I think one guy's name may have been Luke McDonald or something like that.
Oh, Luke McDonald. Yeah, he's a pretty terrible artist who did Suicide Squad. Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's another guy with like an Italian sounding name, like Vincente something. I can't remember. Bob Budiansky did 1 cover, Michael.
Really?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Like, if you're looking at the covers, I forget the number, it's later on, but it's the one where he's like tied to horses and a guy's cracking a whip about to like make the horses tear him apart, you know?
Right.
But anyway. So yeah, I was really excited when I read this. I'm like, oh man, I'll actually go back and read all these. And then, I looked at the art and I'm like, yeah, I'm not really going to read it.
Crap, that sucks, because I was really excited.
I might go and read the other Carrie Gamble ones though.
Right,
7 and 8.
I read the next issue, and like, I didn't think the art was bad in that, and I'm looking at it again now, and it's
the first 10 are Gamble.
Yeah, so, the first 10 obviously are very good, but the rest of it's not bad. It's way better than that issue 1.
Who's the artist there? Is that Luke McDonald or?
Give me a second. Yeah, it is Luke McDonald.
There's another fellow, I think Dave Reed or something, R-E-E-D.
I don't know him.
But anyway, there's a bunch of artists, and I think that's why the series probably wasn't more successful, because just a different creative team every issue.
Right.
And it's tough to have any continuity like that, you know? So.
Yes, and even like Carrie Gamble, he's a guy that I first was exposed to on Superman. Actually, after John Byrne left Superman, funny enough, Carrie Gamble took over Superman, and I never thought much of his art. But now that I've seen a bunch of his stuff on Marvel Team Up, and I really appreciate it now. It's kind of like like Jim Aparo. I didn't really appreciate Jim Aparo when I was a kid, but I think when you get older, you appreciate the storytelling more, right? And like just the thought that's put into everything, like you said, like the angles and the storytelling. It's great.
And he did so much work here in the backgrounds. He put in so many detailed backgrounds. It's like, oh my goodness.
Right, I agree.
Dude, everything in here I just love. And we did Carrie Gamble on the show before. We did David Michelinie a few times. If you go back and listen to the Power Man and Iron Fist issue we did, he drew that. And this was probably about 3 years later, maybe. So it's a more mature Carrie Gamble art, and you can really see, because his stuff there was fine and good, but this is like excellent top level stuff, I think.
Yeah.
He did Power Man Arthurs. He also did the cover for Power Girl 1, remember? If you're Power
Girl. Yes, that's right.
Bob, what'd you think of Carrie Gamble here? Just tremendous, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, everything you're saying, I completely agree with. Some of the detail on these is just, it's exquisite, quite frankly. It's so good.
Yeah, like just the little things, like even the splash page of him running away from those spears, like just the tilt of Indy's body and when he's running, like just these little touches to give more dynamic poses and more action into it. So good. I just love everything about this. Bob, the first time you were on, we had some great art too with Frank Bruner, Doctor Strange.
Mm-hmm.
For that. Because I think this might be my favorite art that we've ever done on here, Michael. I don't know.
Whoa! Even better than Alex Toth on Black Canary?
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
Because that was like I mean, I like that, but this is more my style, I would say.
Yeah, well, it's definitely, like I said, I didn't appreciate it as a kid, but I like it more now. And I definitely don't. I think the inks are not are a little bit sloppy to me. I don't know if
a little too dark at times.
And a little bit too much line, because the inks here are by Sam De La Rosa, so he might have over inked it a little bit. But I think the storytelling is amazing, like you said. It's classic comic book storytelling. So yeah, definitely good stuff.
If only we got 34 issues of this, but now we get a lot of Ditko and Trimp, and so.
Yeah, this has really turned disappointing for me because after reading these 2 issues, I was excited, and now looking at some of these other ones, I am not.
Yeah, because I was playing it through them last night, and I'm like, I can't get excited about any of this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's sad. That's sad. Bob, any final thoughts? Did we miss anything?
I don't think so. All in all, very good.
So what would you give it, 1 out of 10?
An 8, maybe?
All right.
I think that, I really enjoyed it. I'm going to give it an 8.
An 8 for Bob. Mike L?
I think I'm going to give it a 7.5.
Wow, 7.
Yep.
Oh,
because it's solid. And another thing I had to point out is it's refreshing to read a non-superhero comic, right? It just kind of reminds me that I wish Marvel and DC did more non-superhero stuff because, it's kind of a breath of fresh air. So yeah, it was definitely enjoyable.
Yeah, I'm going 9.
Whoa!
Wow.
Yeah, I love the art so much. Man, it's so good.
So 7 was surprisingly low to you.
Yes.
Okay. But I did really enjoy it. And like I said, it totally captured the feeling of the movies. So.
Yeah, just a non-stop adventure. Indiana Jones adventure. Good stuff. And that final panel, that bull running at him, you really want to see what happens next issue.
Oh, yeah. I'll be reading the next issue for sure. And honestly, David, let's be clear. Maybe the art is inconsistent, but David Michelinie is a good writer. So I would recommend that we all read the rest of this series. But that's just me.
I don't know. I'm trying to think who some of the other writers were. Towards the end, a lady named Linda Grant was writing it. She was an assistant editor at Marvel for a while, and she had some writing credits on Daredevil, maybe a couple issues, and then Indiana Jones, and that's it. She went on to write novels then.
Cool.
And when you go to her Wikipedia page, they don't even mention her writing for Marvel.
Yikes. It was beneath her.
Time. Yeah. But I can't think of too many other... shoot. Not who? He's a... I want to say he's a Batman writer, but...
Denny O'Neil.
Yep.
Yep, he did number 2 at least, or maybe 2 and 3 or something.
He did a couple that I was flipping through, so I don't know. But all right, so there it is, Indiana Jones, The Further Adventures of Indiana Jones, issue 11, 60 cents, 60 cents in 1983.
Worth every penny.
Yeah. All right, Michael. So next week, your pick.
Oh yeah. Well, you know what's coming up, right, Mike Dell? 'Tis the season.
Oh, good Lord.
Oh, I was hoping you had a Thanksgiving comic.
No, I wish, but we skip directly to Christmas, okay?
If we even do another Christmas with the superheroes.
That would be absurd, Mike Dell, because next time we're doing Silent Night, Deadly Night. This is Marvel 2-in-1, number 8, featuring The Thing and Ghost Rider.
Well, and how many times has that title been used? Silent Night, Deadly Night.
I think it's at least 2 movies, right? But anyway. Yes. But right here on the cover it says easily the most offbeat holiday extravaganza of all. So you know it's good.
Wow. Now when is Canadian Christmas, Michael? Like December 3rd?
Canadian Christmas is the exact same day. Okay. December 25th. Yeah.
All right.
I mean, I don't want to step on your upcoming episode, but when I'm looking for a good comic, an offbeat holiday adventure isn't generally what I'm trying to pick up.
But what about an offbeat holiday adventure with Ghost Rider?
Oh, okay then. That changes everything.
Oh, I didn't even realize this. Look at this. It's also written by Steve Gerber, whom we all love.
Howard the Duck, Steve Gerber.
Yep. So,
well, Bob, thank you so much for making your 4th appearance on the show.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
We really appreciate it. And just let me know. You can come on whenever. I just always forget to book guests because we got to do it like a week ahead of time, and I always forget. But anytime you want to come on, Bob. And next time we'll let you pick something good.
All right.
Have you been reading anything lately, Bob?
Mostly I've been reading actual books instead of comic books during the pandemic. I know it's weird, right? Like literature and stuff. It's strange.
Yeah. Like what are you reading? Like classics or?
I'm switching it up. Some classics. Like I just read several short stories and a novel by Bram Stoker.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Never heard of him.
Yeah, exactly, right?
The Dracula. Yeah, so you were probably really excited when we did Tomb of Dracula.
Oh, very excited, yes.
Did that make you want to read any Tomb of Dracula comics?
It did, but I didn't actually read any. I thought about it, and it's on my thought of I should look into those and see if any of them are actually good.
Yeah.
I don't remember. Was the one you guys did good, or was it terrible?
It was decent. It was okay. But the good thing about it was Gene Colan's art. That was another good artist.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Gene Colan. All right, Bob. Well, thank you, buddy. And all right, Michael.
All right. So that wraps up another episode of your favorite Bronze Age comic book podcast. Every week we review a different Bronze Age comic book, rotating between my picks and Mike Dell's picks. So those are comics published between 1970 and 1989. You can find us on Twitter, on YouTube, on Facebook, all under Comic Book Syndicate, as well as you can find us on Stitcher, Spotify, and iTunes under Comic Book Syndicate. You can also search Flea Market Fantasy. And so, yeah, we will see you next week for our first of many holiday-themed episodes. So until Tuesday, disperse!